Hi everybody, I'm Ken from Upscale Audio, and we have 3 speakers today. Couple commonalities of all 3 of these speakers. They are all 3 come from designs that were started 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, and all of them come from some of the best speaker designers in the business. They are kind of a modern version of a retro or vintage speaker. Oh, number 3 is an electrostat, so stay for that. But let's start here with the Fyne Audio Vintage Classic Gold 15 SP. That's a lot to say in a name, but this is their top of this category. A real classic vintage look in the proportions of a large cabinet. It's very efficient, 97 dB sensitivity. It has a concentric driver. And what's special here is the crossover frequency. We are all the way down to 750 cycles in this crossover. It's a deep cryogenic treatment, and that does make a difference for the smoothness and listenability of the crossover. But at 750 cycles and up, we're able to capture almost all the acoustic instruments and human voices right here from this center tweeter. It's a 3-inch titanium tweeter, and it is smooth, it is detailed, it is everything that we come to appreciate. Speakers in this category and this price range, I'm telling you, this is going to change the way you listen to music. This gives us such an experience for a music lover that you'll crave. This is the kind of thing that for me, when I'm listening, all of a sudden it is 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and 3 hours of music has gone by and I've lost track of time because I'm so engrossed in enjoying the experience. This next speaker is big. We need another room, so follow me and I'm going to take you over there. All right, I'm back at one of our sound rooms here at the store, and I'm with the Klipsch K-horn. The real model number is AK7, but I think collectively for the past 7 decades, we've referred to it as the K-horn. Paul Klipsch came up with this design 75 years ago, and it is still very recognizable today in its 7th generation. Roy Delgado is the one responsible for this redesign, as he was for the AK6, the redesign before this one. The AK6 was the first one to box in the back, and I'll show you when we're going to spin this around in a minute, and I'll show you what that means. But he boxed in the back, that improved the bass. This model is further improved in the bass by moving up to a 15-inch driver in the horn-loaded bass section down here. What that 15-inch does is it fires forward from the back. As it fires forward, there's a channel that comes up from the middle and goes down. That expands. It goes to the back, that expands, and then comes forward and expands again. By always moving forward, it's just a huge version of what the tweeter and the midrange do. Let's take this off and look at those. All right. This midrange is shorter and redesigned. It's a different flare to the horn. By this redesign, the flare is able to be favorable to both the high and low frequencies, or at the ends of the crossover. So this goes from the high bass or mid bass all the way up to the point that the tweeter takes over. And within that range, having this design, call these mumps, this lets the sound waves come forward so that they're all with equal pressure. That's tricky to do because what will normally happen is the horn is tuned to one frequency and the frequencies above and below that aren't as powerful as the ones right at the center of this frequency range. The tweeter has a new phase plug that helps maintain phase coherency as the sound pressure waves leave there. And I'm going to tell you, the end result on this speaker is amazing. It's very impactful. It's very dynamic. It is 103 decibels of energy released for 1 watt of power. To put that in perspective, we were playing with this thing when it first came out. We plugged in the headphone section from an iPad, and it played these. It wasn't exactly powerful, but, you know, it sounded, you know, more than we could ever expect from anything else. This makes the speaker dynamic, lively. If you want to hear AC/DC like you're at the concert live, if you want Led Zeppelin to be impactful and smack you in the chest, if you want jazz or classical music to be like you are at the first, second, third row of the concert, that's the Klipschorn. Very powerful, really fills your room. Let's spin it around and take a look at the back. All right, thanks to Jordan, we've been able to spin this around. And I think looking at the back helps to explain a lot of what this speaker can do from a connection point of view. So the first thing I want to show is right here on the side, this is the final fold coming out into the room. And it is, if we were looking at that one, it goes like this. It gets wider as it moves forward. And when this can couple to the wall reinforces the base, and that gives it additional impact. This panel right here was never on, it's on the AK6. Anything earlier than AK6 and 7 didn't have this panel. So your wall became that panel. And that's why it had to be sealed in order to gain the reinforcement from the wall. So this is the main input right here. This is the input for the passive crossover network. And I'm going to ask Jordan to get some pictures inside here a little bit of not only just the network, but this massive, man. The magnet structure on the back of the mid-range is like this. It's low, mid, highs. And here, these are jumpers that combine the positives all together and the negatives all together. So we can run just one speaker cable here, plus and minus, and it will feed all three. But we could bi-wire or even tri-wire from 1 amp to improve our performance. The other thing we can do is we could have 3 separate amplifiers and connect each one to the bass, one to the mids, and one to the highs. Now, what's the next step from that? Jordan, hand me the active crossover. Okay, this is the Klipsch active crossover. We're looking at the back of it. And basically, what we're going to do, you would come from your preamplifier, your source, and it would enter this active crossover. From internally on this crossover, it's going to do 2 different functions. The first function is it divides the frequencies into low, mid, and high. An electronic crossover is far better at creating the frequency curves and slopes than a passive crossover. It does it more efficiently, with greater accuracy, and we are better able to, or I should say, Roy Delgado was better able to create the curves that give the speaker a very smooth and accurate frequency response without a lot of peaks and dips. So from the deepest bass to the highest highs, everything comes out at the same volume level. But something else is going on here with this crossover. The other thing that's happening is it's time aligning. So what that means is that the bass, as I explained earlier, it's going through this almost maze-like expansion inside there. By the time it reaches the front, it's already traveled a good 7 feet. Then the mid-range is a little bit further back than the tweeter, and the tweeter is the most forward. So the crossover can time align these. So it's going to delay the mid-range so that it can be released, that signal can be released at the same time that the bass is exiting the front or the bass horn section, and then delay the tweeter even more. So now your highs, mids, and bass all arrive at the same time. Well, that means it's time coherent. does make a big difference. To accomplish this, we have to have 3 separate amplifiers. I'm going to spin this a little bit. I'm going to come over here. Am I allowed to do that? Walk in front of the camera? I don't know if I'm allowed to do that. So we have driver input here. Low frequency, mid frequency, high frequency, and this is passive network output. So it would be input here. Output from the passive frequency would go over, from the passive crossover network would go here. If we're using the active crossover, there's no connection here, no jumpers, and we go right in here. So you got to be careful. You do this wrong, you'll blow the tweeter or you'll blow the mid-range because they can't take all the power that the bass unit would get. So you got to be careful. We've set a lot of these up in people's home, in clients' home. We've set it up here at the store. We've set it up for audio shows, demonstrations. It makes a tremendous difference. It's definitely a great way to, and if you want, you start with the speaker, run it like it just is right out of the box, and you can add this later because it's not going to be cheap to add a lot of amps. But man, if you do it, it brings the speaker to a whole nother level. I'm going to tell you, this is the future of hi-fi in many ways. Active crossovers. All right, this is not our last speaker. We got one more. I'm here in Sound Room 1 with the quad electrostatic speakers. This model is the ESL 2912X. It is the 6th generation of electrostatic speakers from Quad Electronics. These speakers were originally designed by Peter Walker, and he was the first person to bring an electrostatic speaker to the retail hi-fi market in 1957. And in 6 generations, they've come a long, long way, as you can imagine. But one of the things they've always done and always been known for, and one of the reasons they're still around today with the same basic principle, is they get the mid-range right. Music lives in the mid-range. And one of the things that Peter Walker used to do in the late 70s, early 80s, when he would demonstrate these for prospective distributors, prospective dealers, and reviewers, he would play a square wave tone through the speakers, somewhere between 300 and 1,000 cycles, because this is where the human voice in many acoustical instruments or, the piano will live. And then he would show the signal in an oscilloscope, and you could see the square waves on the oscilloscope are very, very accurate. In conventional cone speakers that are in a box, the box can resonate, and the cone can deform because it's pushed from the center. And it can kind of do this as the speaker goes in and out. The cone gets a little bit misshapen. Dome tweeters are driven from the outside edge, and by the time that push and pull gets to the center, sometimes it can change, or that's when the speaker gets into something called the breakup mode. So before I get real technical, let me just tell you that this is music you can immerse yourself in. As I was preparing for this video, I sat here on several afternoons and forgot about everything else I was working on and just played my favorite music. I could just rest, relax, and time slipped away. Why does this happen? Well, the mylar panel that is suspended between 2 electrically charged metal plates, these metal plates are perforated so the sound can radiate from the front and the back. There's no box. There's nothing to add additional resonances. These 2 electrical plates have 5,000 volts worth of charge, and the acoustic electrical energy from the amplifier is applied to the center conductive mylar panel. And that causes the panel to either push or pull back and forth, vibrating, creating music. And that music is very natural, very lifelike, very lack of distortion, I think would properly describe it. Pure, immediate, transparent. Some of the instruments will be in front of the speakers. Some will be back behind the speakers. It is open, very big space, and literally an out-of-box experience. Peter Comeau is Quad's Director of Acoustic Design. One of the refinements he's done for this latest X is the 6th generation of this speaker. He went back to Peter Walker's original design and has these transformers done to Peter Walker's specs in the UK. So parts of the speaker are actually manufactured in the UK. The speaker is driven uniformly. What that means is that the pressure is equal over that same panel. So the panel moves as one piece front to back as it makes the music. It doesn't have the opportunity to be pushed from just a single area. That's one of the things that makes this speaker so wonderful to listen to. You know, I've listened to speakers that were very accurate, but over long periods of time, after 30, 40 minutes, that accuracy actually becomes very fatiguing. It becomes work to listen to them. Not with these at all. Hey, if you made it this far into the video, I've got to tell you, I really thank you, and I really appreciate it. I hope you'll put some comments down below. Of the 3 speakers that we saw today, I'd like you to tell us what was your favorite, what did you like about it? And here at Upscale Audio, call our salespeople. They're non-commissioned, they're knowledgeable, and they can help you. Because we are going to treat your system like it's our system here at Upscale Audio. Thank you. I mean that from my heart.